America. What is it worth in the scale of human values? I wish I could find somebody to talk with about human affairs, morality and spirit. Not just dollars, movie stars and cars.
It is a moral indictment of America written in the 1950s. The author, a man who found the country to be a spiritual wasteland. His name was Sayyid Qutb. He inspired the likes of Usama bin Laden and his lieutenant, Ayman al Zawahri. Qutb's works laid the foundation for the modern jihad movement.
Sayyid Qutb is the philosopher of the militant Islamist movement.
Fawaz Gerges is a professor and author who has interviewed hundreds of Islamic jihadists.
His views on America are terrifying. They are terrifying because they're narrow. He represented America in very simplistic dichotomies, and those simplistic dichotomies have influenced and shaped how radical Islamists and radical jihadists view America and Americans.
Qutb, an Egyptian Sunni Muslim, came to America in 1948 to study, but American culture shocked the scholarly Muslim poet and critic.
His 2 years in America turned Sayyid Qutb into a militant Islamist. He resented the deep philosophical secular roots of American society. He resented the way women and men interact in society. He resented the obsessive nature of American materialism. He believed that America lacked spiritualism.
I fear that a balance may not exist between America's material greatness and the quality of its people.
Qutb returned to Egypt and preached a message of restoring Muslim nations to their religious roots. The secular Egyptian government of Gamal Abdel Nasser imprisoned and tortured him, and finally in 1966 executed him. His most radical book, Milestones, was written from prison. It advocated violent jihad, even against Muslim governments. His writings and what many saw as his martyrdom inspired generations of Muslim radicals.
He was my teacher, my instructor, my mentor.
Mahfouz Azam was also Qutb's friend.
He used to express in some of his letters about his feelings that the American society is losing its soul because of its materialism. He said, that's all they think about.
Azam is also the uncle of Ayman al Zawahri, the Egyptian doctor who would take Qutb's message to heart.
We are Muslims. We are Muslims who believe in their religion.
Zawahri has become one of the most notorious terrorists of our time, second in command to Usama bin Laden.
We want to speak to the whole world.
Zawahri and bin Laden were part of what became known in the Muslim world as the Sawa, the Awakening. A religious movement in the 1970s that pitted young, reform-minded Sunni Muslims against their established governments. If Sayyid Qutb provided the inspiration for these future jihadists, Afghanistan was their call to arms. In 1979, the Soviet Union, officially atheist and communist, invaded Afghanistan. It was an affront to Islam. Thousands of young Muslims signed up for jihad, a holy war against the invader. Osama bin Laden was one of them, and his exploits in Afghanistan gave him credibility as well as a base.
I have benefited greatly from the jihad in Afghanistan. It would have been impossible for me to benefit as much from any other opportunity.
The Soviets, worn down by the Mujahideen, the Muslim warriors, eventually withdrew from Afghanistan. Bin Laden would go on to establish Al-Qaeda. Zawahri, the Egyptian doctor, would become his advisor, both men inspired by the words of Sayyid Qutb.